What do riders, Christmas trees, coronations, and oranges have in common? Sacre bleu. Another episode of Queen Charlotte. Cheerio, everyone. This is D Movie Man, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. And today, of course, I'm coming to you all with another episode of Queen Charlotte, Season 1, Episode 3, Even Days. This episode is directed by Tom Verica and written by Shonda Rhimes. And now, let us commence. So we open up this episode witnessing preparations for the impending coronation. We also see Brimsley speaking to Reynolds regarding the whereabouts of the king on behalf of the queen. Reynolds informs Brimsley that the king is studying his sciences in the library and will be with her soon. Sensing that Reynolds' energy seems to be somewhat off, Brimsley also lets him know that he does not care if he has another rider. I said, not another rider. Rider? Is that what we're calling it now? Hey, who's that over there? Oh, that's my rider. Reynolds dismisses this, telling Brimsley that he is simply below stairs, and advises that he attend to his queen. But before Brimsley can do this, he briefly glimpses King George being examined by a strange doctor who is not the royal physician. When asked, Reynolds refuses to answer, telling Brimsley that he has seen nothing. Next up, we see the one and only future Viscountess, Violet Bridgerton. But at the moment, she is simply Violet Ledger. She is currently expressing her excitement for the coronation day to her governess. However, she also inquires about the statements made by her mother regarding the unnatural society created by the new king and queen. Additionally, Violet also overhears her mother expressing her acceptance of the new queen, while also openly expressing her disdain for the new members of the time. How eloquent. But it's clear that Violet does not share her mother's sentiments, as she can detect no real differences. She also emphasizes how many are from royal families of their own, and have more money than the pre-established members of the time, making them not only equal, but far superior logistically. Well, she's not wrong.
Girl, bottom line is we're dealing with facts.
We briefly jump forward to 1815, where we see Queen Charlotte rocking a spade-shaped hairdo and persuading the attendants to make their Christmas tree significantly more colorful. She also admonishes her daughters for once again failing to provide heirs with their dry and useless spinster wombs. How unfortunate. We then hit our title card and we see the Danburys. Lord Danbury suggests that Lady Danbury should broach the subject of hosting the first ball of the season with Princess Augusta. Lady Danbury is unsure about doing this until he simply suggests she stay home with him instead. There's motivation for you. We see Lady Danbury filling in Princess Augusta on the happy state of affairs between the king and queen. Now, we know that this is a lie, but it is clear that Lady Danbury is not willing to betray Charlotte so easily, which is a relief. At last, the coronation is here, the two are crowned, and all appears to be well, at least in public. Matters are quite different behind closed doors. To put the matter plainly, Charlotte hates George. Yet and still, they are trying consistently on even days to bring forth their future heir. Plus, the sooner they get this over with, the sooner Charlotte no longer has to look at George's face. And the sooner that George no longer has to listen to Charlotte's voice. And so, they both go through the motions, suffering through what Lady Danbury assumes is an awful act. However, their energy in the bedroom would suggest otherwise. And I'll just leave it at that. I'm sorry, did I say energy in the bedroom? Well, apparently that also includes dining tables in front of all the attendants.
Are you serious?
It's not what it looks
Right in
like.
front of my salad?
We can't even wait and go down the hallway and take it to a room, not even the bedroom, but just another room. We're really gonna do this. We're gonna tear up all this food. I was so done. I'm not gonna lie, this was funny to see, but in general, this kind of stuff gets on my nerves with intimate scenes, so to speak. It's like we're ripping open shirts and, we're, pushing stuff off the tables. Oh, we're just so desperate and, oh, I want it, passionate. I'm just like, okay, listen. Listen, I understand. When you're ready, you're ready, you're raring to go, and some people like it hot and aggressive, and that's fine. But in these situations, my thought always is, so who's cleaning that up? Now, granted, they're the king and queen, so they have attendants, so that answers that question. But for everyone else, I'm just kind of like, okay, well, the house is completely destroyed, but at least you got yours? I cannot. Speaking of which, now that the honeymoon phase has officially ended, even though it never really started, Brimsley informs Charlotte of the many ways in which she can make use of her free time. There's galleries, operas, plays, and charities of her choice. As they make their way into the orangery, Charlotte declares that she will be picking her own oranges from now on. She also discovers that the king does not attend any social gatherings, something she cannot make sense of at the moment. Brimsley then slips up and accidentally mentions the mysterious doctor, a slip-up that unfortunately puts him on thin ice with Reynolds. Charlotte later speaks with George, inquiring about the mysterious doctor, but he tries to write it off as it being a necessary preparation for Coronation Day. We see Lady Danbury meeting once again with Princess Augusta, who is very anxious and awaiting Queen Charlotte's much-desired pregnancy. After all, a baby can officially seal the great experiment. And it is here that Lady Danbury senses her opportunity. She suggests that she throw the first ball of the season. After all, as one of the Queen's ladies-in-waiting, it makes sense, and it will be a great display of unity for the time. When Princess Augusta attempts to dismiss this, Lady Danbury oh so politely laments the difficulty of bringing Princess Augusta further updates without said opportunity. Well played. Later, we see Lady Danbury setting a new plan in motion with her maid Coral. Although Princess Augusta has not yet given her approval, there's plenty of time to send out invitations before she does. Jumping ahead to 1815, we see Lady Danbury meeting with Violet, who is currently in the midst of grief, as it is her late husband's birthday. She recalls all the happy memories they spent on his birthdays, where she would make for him all kinds of funny hats that were also made for her when she was a young girl. But now, these days are simply a reminder that there are no more hats to make. However, Lady Danbury tells her that she is most fortunate. Violet is very confused, assuming she misheard her. But Lady Danbury reiterates, "You may not like today, but trust me, you are most fortunate." And as soon as she said it, I immediately knew what she meant. We then flash back to young Violet wearing one of the same hats she was just talking about in the future. She is just in time to hear her mother's horrified shrieks regarding the invitations she has just received to the Danburys' upcoming ball. We then see Queen Charlotte and her ladies-in-waiting listening to a young piano prodigy named Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? I actually thought it was cool that they circled back to this moment because I do remember that scene back in season 1 of Bridgerton where the queen is telling Violet how she discovered Mozart, and basically she's using that as an example to say, like, when I discover somebody, when I like place my stamp, I mean it. So if your daughter is diamond of the first water, she better make good on it. So I thought it was cool to see this moment that she was referencing then in this episode. Here is where we also realize just how bold Lady Ledger is. She not only mocks the Queen's musical taste, despite history proving otherwise, and quite passive-aggressively declines Lady Danbury's invitation, along with the other ladies-in-waiting. We then see Princess Augusta meeting with Lord Bute, Earl Harcourt, and the crew, and to put it bluntly, it's absolute bedlam. Now that the Danburys have sent out their invitations, it has created a ripple effect of anger, controversy, and pandemonium, which also includes Parliament. Imagine that. A couple of black people decide they want to throw a ball, and an entire government is nearly overthrown. Talk about power.
Boom.
Yeah.
Princess Augusta is between a rock and a hard place, as she must present to United Front and help the palace remain steady in its efforts to unite society. If their side does not attend, then the palace will lose all moral authority and the great experiment will be in ruins. The solution is simple. Cancel the ball. Later, we see Lady Danbury attempting to broach the subject of said ball to Queen Charlotte, but she's clearly not paying attention because she is much too preoccupied with George. I am not gonna lie, I was irritated in this little moment right here. I have an issue with people who don't listen, who interrupt, who are not good at active listening or paying attention, especially when I'm like being very serious and vulnerable about things I have to say. We will have issues very quickly if you do that. So the fact that Lady Danbury is trying to make this ball happen, which I want to happen for her, the fact that Charlotte kept interrupting and was not paying attention and kept hopping in talking about, there's George, and, what is George doing? And, oh, he's gardening, and why would he do that? And why would he be working with his hands? And why would...
Shut the up!
I was so over it. And as only Lady Danbury can do, she makes it very clear to Charlotte how precarious this situation is. She's like, do you understand what your life would be like were you not queen? Do you understand what our experience is in this society? Do you understand why I push you to endure, push you to have a child, push you to keep going forward no matter what? Do you understand how you hold our fates entirely in your hands? Well, it is very clear what the answer to that question is. Later, we see Charlotte speaking with George. After being given some clarity from Brimsley about her immediate demand for oranges, she understands just how unwilling she's been to have a conversation. She assures George that she understands his love of agriculture and gardening and why he desires to simply be Farmer George. In the garden, he is a regular man, free from obligation and regulation, free from feeling like an exhibit instead of a person. Charlotte reassures him that he is and can always be a person with her. And reiterating a statement Lady Danbury herself made about their palace walls being too high, she has now formed a plan of action involving both herself and George. We then jump forward to the Danbury ball, where final preparations are being made. But for a brief moment, it appears that no one will be attending. That is, until Lord and Lady Ledger are announced as arriving guests. But that's not all. Princess Augusta also arrives, and per Lord Ledger's words, the king and queen themselves will be attending, hence the arriving masses of guests for the social event of the season. Things get a little worrisome when these separate but equal social dynamics initially present themselves once more. But then the king and queen enter, and all is well. Even better, we get to see the two dance together as a quartet version of If I Ain't Got You by Alicia Keys plays in the background. Let me tell you right now, it does not matter how old I get. I will always have fond memories of that song, of just the diary of Alicia Keys as an album. I just remember high school and just how I would come home and I would do my homework or I would study and I would play that CD from top to bottom, like every single track. That was just such a great time in my life, and I will always have fond memories. So of course, hearing this redux version of it was really enjoyable. And no, not even Princess Augusta, can deny the obvious happiness in her son's eyes. The Danbury ball is indeed a success, but unfortunately, Lady Danbury's husband is in the mood to celebrate, which means, yes, another agonizing, painful scene of marital duty.
Oh, I had almost gagged just then.
However, this comes to an unexpected end when Lord Danbury falls silent, followed by a heavy thud on the floor. It appears that the Lord Danbury has unexpectedly died. And my immediate thought was,
God is joy. Sing joy. Sing joy.
and I'm gonna tell you right now, clearly Coral was on the exact same page. Because as soon as she picked up what Lady Danbury was putting down about not needing to draw baths as often, jumping forward to 1815, we see Lady Danbury and Violet having a conversation that is fraught with tension. Violet seems to be obviously offended by Lady Danbury's interpretation of her grief. Lady Danbury informs her that she was there at the church to discuss funding a school for orphaned girls in the name of her late husband. Violet also takes this as a slight, assuming Lady Danbury is suggesting she should have done the same. But Lady Danbury makes it very clear that her husband disdained orphans, and it's very obvious what he thought of women and girls in general. And she explains to Violet something that was already very evident to me. Violet's great fortune is that she can go to church to seek solace and connection with the man she loved and who now lives on through that love. Lady Danbury, on the other hand, loathed. And in her loathing, she now funds a school to seek revenge and satisfaction. In her, Lord Danbury rots away. Violet's heart is full, while Lady Danbury's heart starves. So, as was said before, Violet is very, very much fortunate. And let me say very quickly that I really appreciated this scene and the dialogue and the conversation, because I have to say that as I have gotten older, my perspective and my general perception of grief has definitely changed. Yes, I am very sad and very frustrated sometimes when I think about the people that I have lost in my life, and some far before their time. And that can really get to me some days. But then I also think about what their memory means to me. And when I think about them, like the joy that comes to my heart. And I also recognize that some people, whether in life or in death, they cannot say the same thing. So yes, it will always be a sore spot. It will always be, a source of sadness and a sense of loss. But I at least am grateful for the impact that they made and the joy and the happiness and just all the things I can look back on throughout my life for the rest of my life because of what they were to me and what they always will be to me. We then see the Queen sitting in front of her Christmas tree, now wearing her hair in the shape of a giant fan. She has a discussion with Brimsley about why her girls never married. Brimsley is somewhat unsure, but he also knows that because of her current circumstances, Queen Charlotte remains the king's queen. And in the meantime, she is trapped forever waiting and forever longing. Perhaps in some way, her daughters recognized that they could not simply abandon their mother, trapped in time. The Queen angrily dismisses Brimsley, but it's clear that his words have had an effect on her. Now flashing back, we see a young Charlotte awakening to find her husband scribbling erratically across the bedroom walls. He appears to be muttering to himself and not fully aware of his surroundings. When Charlotte calls to him, he quickly rushes outside as she follows behind. He makes his way to the garden, removes his clothes, and begins calling and screaming to Venus. Now understanding the severity of the situation at hand, Charlotte goes to him, telling him that she is in fact Venus. She was in the sky, but now she is going inside, and he should accompany her. Despite some initial confusion, George eventually complies and walks with his wife indoors. It appears that the king's greatest secret has been revealed at last. And that closes out episode 3, Even Days. Yeah, we took a bit of a turn in this episode. Now, I knew it was coming. You know, we all know what the king was dealing with in, the Bridgerton seasons. But we see that those issues are very much present and arguably have been for a while. And now Charlotte has discovered it. So it's like, what is she going to make of that? How can she deal with it? What does Princess Augusta know about it? I mean, we know what Reynolds knows, but, what's the solution here? And how will they make it past this particular hurdle? That's something that is very much a part of him. So I'm really interested in seeing how things progress there, because we see that in the future, it definitely has had a significant impact on the person that Charlotte eventually becomes. And as always, please feel free to leave your thoughts on this recap and the episode in general. You guys can also let me know as far as the format of these recaps. Would you guys prefer something that's a little more condensed? Do you guys want me to expound a little bit more details? However it works out, I just want some feedback. You guys have definitely been helping me as far as the views and commenting and all that. But I want to make sure I'm presenting something that is, enjoyable, and that I can be, just kind of, if I can speed up the time and maybe condense it a little bit, that's fine. But if you guys appreciate what I'm doing, just let me know, and I can just make any adjustments. But either way, I'm very, very grateful for the support, for the feedback, just for everything. And, being able to do this for a show that is really, really enjoyable, it only adds to the experience overall. So, once again, this is D, Movie Man, signing off, and I'll see you at the movies.